MMA Dude, back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 29, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing today, man?
Glad to be back, man. Great weekend of fights. Happy to talk about them. How are you?
Doing very well. We have so much to discuss. Here's a quick breakdown, folks, of what we've got on tap tonight. First, we're going to tackle a UFC 239 recap. So many storylines, so much to cover. After that, we're moving into a UFC Sacramento Preview. And then my favorite section, the listener questions and Fight Geek. Tell me if I'm wrong. I know I say it a lot. These were literally the best listener questions. The
best questions we've had, and we have a ton of them to get to. So thanks again to everybody who took the time to give us a question. We love having the dialogue. We really appreciate all the support.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so Fight Geek, as you know, we start off the show with me asking you a question, and it seems only right to start with the main event, Jon Jones versus Thiago Santos. It was Jones's first victory via split decision. He won 47-48, 48-47, 48-47. My first question for you is, how did you score that fight? And second of all, what did you take away from Dana White's controversial comments in the post-fight presser when he said that anyone who scored that fight for Santos should never judge a fight again?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I watched it the night of the fight. I scored it 49-46 for Jones, and I got a lot of kickback for that. Yeah. I went back and rewatched it and saw it 48-47 Jones. So I think the way I initially saw it was probably how Dana saw it. It was a lot of forward pressure by Jones. Yes, Santos was tough and had enough power to kind of keep Jones at bay, but I certainly think that Jones outpointed him clearly. In the moment, I thought he had won round one, but after rewatching it, I give that round to Santos. I know round two has been incredibly close, but again, Jones was just pressuring so much. Santos was only having, very small success in spurts, and was compromised pretty quickly into the second round, I believe, maybe even the end of the first round. So, yeah, I think in retrospect it was a 48-47. I think it should have been unanimous for John, but there's always some rogue judges. But I know that you saw it a little differently, right?
Yeah, definitely. I really do respectfully disagree. But before I even get into that, let me ask you this. Which rounds did you score for Jones in that 48-47?
Putting me on the spot, huh?
Well, it's because it's been all over the place on MMA Twitter. Everyone has different opinions on the rounds.
Well, here, let me preface it with this. All the rounds were super close. There was not a ton of action to really go off of. I don't think there was a lot of, anything that landed super clean. There was no, big momentum changes in the fight. It was basically a glorified sparring match is kind of what it felt like in a way. I would say off the top of my head, and I don't want to misspeak because I know everybody's all over the place, but Santos 1-5 and Jones 2, 3, and 4.
So you're giving Santos 1-5 and Jones 2, 3, 4.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. That's probably that's a very fair argument. That's one of the ones I can see. I've heard some crazy stuff that's less crazy. So the way that I scored it was I scored it 48-47 Santos. I agree it was very close. I thought Santos easily won the first, so I thought that was actually Santos's most dominant round by far, was the first round. I don't see how people could give Jones the first.
See, in the moment, here's what I would say. I was buzzing so hard from the prior 3 knockouts that I almost wasn't even present for the first round of the Jon Jones fight because my head was spinning after that Masvidal knockout, which we'll get to. But I'm not sure that I've ever been more hyped or for an unexpected. I mean, that was
We'll get to that. We'll get to
yeah.
Masvidal.
But I think that affected kind of how I saw the Jones fight at first glance, because the first round I kind of just glossed over in the moment. When I went back and watched it, I think it was a little more clear for Santos.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I saw it was Santos 10-9 in the first for sure. Second round, very close. Very close. I definitely think you have to give the nod to Santos, though.
See, I think the second is the round that's in question here for most people,
yeah,
right?
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one where people can't really decide, but it was almost a 10-10 round. I think probably a draw would have been the best outcome for that fight based on the actual action, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. So then I had third round. That was by far Jones's most dominant. I don't see how you can give the third to Santos. You can't. So I then had Jones winning the third. The fourth was extremely close again. Extremely.
Yeah. Not a ton of action. I mean, it was Jones pressing, and it was Santos keeping his respect with, big wild power combinations.
But landing some big power.
Definitely, I would say maybe 3 or 4 clipped John on the face, most of which John was pretty much getting his hands up and seeing most of. But yeah, he got a couple through, and if his legs would have been healthy, that's when it would have been very scary for John.
Right.
Because John was in his comfort zone that whole fight. I think with 2 good knees or a good knee, Santos would have been able to really kind of obviously put it on him and feel more confident with his striking.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, fourth was very close. I did give that to John. Even though it was very close, I give the slight nod to John. So, going into the fifth, I had it 2-2, right? Winner takes all fifth. I don't know how you can give the fifth to Jones. I just don't. I think Santos edged. It was close again, but I really think Santos edged him. Now, a lot of that comes down to whether or not,
Jones didn't have a scratch on him. I mean, I'm not in the
Santos
round,
was landing by far the bigger power punches.
He was out. John outstruck him for the fight. I think he had a higher percentage and total strikes.
Well, see, and I don't want to stamp on the listener questions because we've got some, so we will keep it short here.
Okay.
But significant strikes to me is a really big problem in the UFC because
it's an immeasurable stat.
Right. I mean, Jones. When I looked at the significant strikes at the end, I thought, wow, Jones got a lot of BS significant strikes.
But you don't think that those leg strikes that John lands had anything to do with destroying Santos' knee? Yes.
No, they definitely did. They definitely did.
That is significant. All of those kicks that John landed were significant, 100%.
Did you see that Santos had surgery prior to the fight?
I did not see that, but either way.
So, anyways, great fight.
It was interesting fight to say the least. I think John pretty clearly won it. At worst, got a draw, would have retained his title, and we still would have had some great controversy to talk about. So I'm not sure that I can see Santos winning that fight, especially since he was on the defensive so much of that fight. He was moving backwards. He was against the cage, a lot of it. Not like pinned against the cage, but definitely not controlling the octagon. He was just brushing John back occasionally to keep his respect.
Well, on that, I'm glad you brought that up. On that, we can agree. John was absolutely controlling the octagon. I don't think there's any debate about it.
So in the razor close rounds, and I'd usually lean towards like the old scoring metrics, just because I've been watching forever.
Yeah.
So, I lean more towards the old school scoring metrics where octagon control and those types of things are more heavily weighted, and that's where I think John won that. John was never outside of his element. He was never seriously threatened. He didn't have a scratch on his face from what I could tell. Santos had a destroyed knee, was limited in the way he could attack John, and was bleeding from the forehead. So, I just don't see how Santos could have won that fight.
There were multiple exchanges where Jones was hurt enough where he was turning his back and running a few feet.
True. Definitely.
He clearly wanted out of the exchange immediately. He was turning and running.
All of those exchanges he wanted to get out of, he got out of.
Yeah, he
And
did, but you can't say
if you
that.
listen to his interview, he says the hardest he got hit was in the first round when his mouthpiece went out.
I think that what this comes down to, and again, this is a great listener question. I really don't want to go into too much detail, but it's worth noting. What it comes down to is, who do you think is winning a fight if you've got one person walking another down, as Jones was walking down Santos, going pitter patter,
Well, with
pitter patter.
Santos' knees, let's just put it this way: who would eventually folded in that fight? It was going to be Santos.
I mean, see, we're gonna have to agree to disagree. I had Santos winning that 3 rounds to 2.
Santos was a few minutes away from his leg folding in half the wrong way and him not being able to move.
That's not fair.
His leg was completely shred.
Jones got his mouthpiece hit out in the first round.
Here's my point. Okay, we'll move on all this, but here's one thing to say. I think it's safe to say that John Jones didn't look spectacular against a former middleweight who had a destroyed knee.
Yep, and now, thank you for bringing that up. Now, I can't help but ask this question. At the very end of the fight, Jones was very classy. Got to give him credit. He was pure class. And I remember when he first took the mic, he said, hey, listen, I can hear the boos. I'm sorry about that. I've got to go back and, look at what I did wrong. He was very classy. And those exact words where he was apologetic in a sort of, in a very likable way, saying he had to look back on what he had to do better. It reminded me of a certain fight. Do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Jones versus Ovince St. Preux.
Your favorite fight.
And that was the last fight before this one where Jones did not test positive for any performance-enhancing drugs. Coincidence or not?
That's for you to decide, Phil.
No, I'm just putting it out there. Okay, last thing, and then we're moving on. What did you think? I mean, we can both agree that the fight was very close, yes?
Very close fight. I would say lackluster overall.
Okay, so what did you think of Dana White's comments? And this is, by the way, what set me off on Twitter going all nuclear afterwards. People think it was the decision. No, the decision was fine. I didn't agree, but it was fine. It was very close. What set me off on Twitter was Dana White saying, Jones destroyed him. If you think that he didn't destroy him, you should never judge again. That struck me as Oscar De La Hoya protecting Canelo Alvarez. I didn't like that one bit. What'd you think?
I mean, what are you, late to the party? Dana's been doing that kind of stuff for, saying those kinds of things for all his fighters.
I don't remember him trying to intimidate judges. No, I don't remember that.
Intimidate judges?
Yeah, he's basically saying you lose your job if you. He's saying if you ever make it.
Okay, just off the top of my head, when George St. Pierre beat Johnny Hendricks,
yeah,
was Dana not basically chastising the judges because he said there's no way in hell that GSP won that fight?
Okay, good point.
Okay.
I will give you that. You named one. Name another.
Well,
name another.
That was off the top of my head in 5 seconds. I will name more, but let's keep it moving because we got a lot to cover this.
All right. Okay,
the next 3 fights are amazing. Let's get
moving on to Amanda Nunes defeating Holly Holm via TKO head kick. I don't know why that's a TKO, by the way, because I thought she slept Holly. That should be a knockout.
No, because she had to follow up with a couple shots. Holly wasn't out cold. If the ref would have stopped it on time like he was supposed to, it would have been a KO.
Yeah, okay, good point. That's 4 minutes and 10 seconds into round 1. Look, to me, Fight Geek, is Amanda Nunes getting better and better? I think she's getting better and better.
Yeah, she's certainly in her prime, and I think she's just simply the best. She's an absolute pleasure to watch. I mean, every time I see an Amanda Nunes fight, I'm extremely excited, and then she just performs, man. She's just a star, one of the best we've ever seen do it, and just keeps putting, performance on top of performance, and just keeps putting in that work. I saw the graphic. I think you commented on the resume graphic where she stopped Rousey, Tate, Cyborg, and Holm all in the first round. I mean, think of that resume. That is just unbelievable. So, in my opinion, firmly believe she's the greatest female fighter of all time. Always a pleasure to watch her. It was kind of an interesting fight. She had mentioned also in her post-fight comments that Holly was kind of came out and did the opposite of what she thought she was going to do. Holly wasn't really on her bicycle, wasn't really staying away. She was willing to engage with Nunes, and I just do not think you want to engage with her. I do not think you want to be in a firefight with Amanda Nunes. That's not going to work out for anyone.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to me, the biggest takeaway was the fact that Nunez is, I mean, I guess it wasn't technically the finishing move, but the move that essentially finished it was that head kick. And so to kind of beat Holly at her own game, because let's be honest, we all thought, at least I thought, that Holly's main weapon would be the kicks and Nunez would be the striking. And for Nunez to catch her with the head kick, I mean, it just blew me away yet again.
I was really surprised that Holly didn't circle a lot and stay away a lot and fight the counter game and see if she could draw that fight into the third, fourth, and fifth round and get Amanda tired and do work there. The fact that she came in and was just closing the distance and slugging it out with Amanda, I didn't understand that at all.
Yep, absolutely. And then last question on this fight, what do you think is next for Amanda? Because Dana said in the post-fight presser that Nunez wants to fight Cyborg again, but Cyborg doesn't want the fight. Obviously, my takeaway from that was Dana's trying to pressure Cyborg into signing an extension before this Felicia Spencer fight, right?
Yeah, I think that's how they like to work. Well, I think Cyborg is going to test the waters. Win or lose with Felicia Spencer, I think she's going to end up in Bellator and fighting Julia Budd potentially. That's kind of how I feel. She fought for Scott Coker before when Strikeforce. People love to go back to Strikeforce. The 145-pound division in UFC is just no man's land for Cyborg, so she has a name opponent over there in Bellator. I think we'll see her over there.
Not the PFL, because I thought she's looking at the PFL and eyeing Kayla Harrison.
Either or.
Yeah.
What I see next for Nunes is I definitely think she should fight the winner of
Durandamy and Ladd.
Yes, 100%, and I'd be down to see that fight, either one.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's move on to arguably not arguably, I think it is the highlight of the evening for sure, actually.
It's arguably the greatest knockout of all time.
I think that's very fair. Very fair. Jorge Gamebred Masvidal defeating Ben Askren via jumping knee.
Via execution. 5 seconds into round one in the fastest knockout in UFC history. That is why I love this sport, because that build-up, and we all had opinions, and everybody had a million opinions, and guess what? Not one person said Jorge would knock him out in 5 seconds with a flying knee. That's why this sport is the greatest of all, because no matter what we think, we get something else every now and again, and it was just amazing. So amazing. Gamebred is obviously a superstar now. That has been seen everywhere. I think he's going on the ESPN circuit tomorrow being interviewed. Wow. He's one of those guys, us hardcore MMA fans who have been watching forever know his backstory, have seen him fight guys in 2 different divisions and kind of be this kind of cult hero. And to see him break through is just amazing. Really, really happy for him. And yeah, man, that was just a 100 on the scale. It was just perfect. Everything about it. Obviously not for Ben. Tough for Ben. I'm a fan of Ben. I'm a fan of most of these guys. It was just a perfect storm for Jorge Masvidal there. If they fought 100 more times, that would never happen again. That was, once in a generation knockout. It is what it is, man. It was unlucky yet premeditated. I guess we'll say that way. It was awesome.
Yeah, and let me ask you this, because obviously I picked Ben before the fight. Credit to you. I believe you picked Jorge.
I just thought it was time for Ben to lose statistically. I'm one of those guys. If you're 19-0, percentages say you're due. Nobody goes 20-0. So I guess Khabib does, but I just thought it was time, and I was playing that. I could have never in a million years predicted a highlight reel KO like that.
Yeah, and I hosted a party for 239, and I was telling my friends at the party that when Ben was walking into the octagon, and specifically when he was in the octagon right before the fight started, man, I thought he looked nervous. What, did you see that at all?
Yeah, well, on Embedded, I thought he looked nervous when he was having to encounter Masvidal in the hallways and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's kind of been in different walks of life, you know. I don't know what your walks of life are. You don't know what mine, but Jorge Masvidal is one of those guys who has an intense energy about him, and he's certainly, like, not going to have his will bent to another man. So I think that Ben Askren could feel that intensity when they were together, and I do think that made him a little uneasy. I don't think he ever thought he'd get knocked out like that, but I do certainly think he was uneasy, and that's all it takes sometimes to get an edge, because I certainly think this was similar to the Cowboy Cerrone fight, where Masvidal just kind of overpowered his opponent with kind of his intensity and his realness, you know, which is kind of a cliche thing to say, but that dude is real. You know, there's not much phony going on with what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah, no, I like to joke that Jorge Masvidal is what the Diaz brothers would be if they actually fought. So I know that Nate's supposedly fighting soon, and hopefully he does, but, you know.
I heard Nate was fighting Khabib in the crowd of 239. Did you hear about this?
I heard about that. I heard there was a definite scuffle, but we can jump into that later. Let me ask you this question before we move on. So I'm not sure if you saw my tweet this morning. I said, calling it now. I thought it was very telling that after the fight, Dana said, there is no clear-cut number one contender for Usman at welterweight. And I thought that meant that if Lawler beats Covington, then Lawler's going to get that title shot against Usman. And if Covington beats Lawler, they're going to give it to Jorge Masvidal. Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree. I don't think
Really?
Robbie's getting a title shot. No, he just lost. Robbie's like, off the top of my head, I don't know what is he, like 2-3 in his last 5 or something? There's no way he's getting a title shot, even with the win over Covington.
You're thinking too logically. You're thinking way too logically. This is Dana
I
White.
also think there's multiple people in front of him. I think, personally, if Colby wins, he's still not getting the title shot.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on Usman, how long he's going to be out, I think we may see an interim title between Masvidal and Woodley.
Interesting. You think that Dana would give Woodley that opportunity? He despises him.
They need main events, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing that, and again, you know, this isn't always accurate.
You don't think Masvidal-Woodley as a true number one contender match? Woodley just lost the title. Masvidal's on a unbelievable 2-fight streak right now, where he's just basically killed 2 men in 1 minute.
The fight sounds great. Don't get me wrong.
It's an amazing fight. So, but those guys are both American top team guys. Would they fight? That's interesting.
Well, Woodley's a BS ATT guy. He's really over with Duke Rufus in Milwaukee. I mean, let's talk real.
So you think they would certainly fight?
Absolutely they would. But I just thought it was weird because if Masvidal's next, I think that Dana would have said Masvidal's probably next.
I don't think Masvidal's next. I mean, he's 2-2 in his last 4, and he lost to Maya and Wonderboy. So those aren't great losses. His last 2 wins are amazing. Let's not get that twisted. But he still probably needs one more big win to be a true title challenger, right? And Woodley would present a perfect name for that.
But Usman, it's widely believed that Usman is returning to defend his belt at UFC 244. So he needs an opponent.
Yeah, well, I guess then in that case it would probably be Masvidal, or when is Woodley coming back? Would they give them the rematch because they feel confident that Usman will beat Woodley? That was not close the first time.
Right. Good point. All right, we got to move on. A lot up in the air. Light heavyweight, yet again, I'm very annoyed.
Ouch.
We both did very well overall on this card, but you did one fight better than me. I got you on the Claudia Gadelha defeating Ronda Marcos, but you got me in two of them, and this is one of those two. You called it Jan Blachowicz defeating Luke Rockhold via KO punches. Second round, 1 minute 39 seconds into round two. What was your takeaway?
My takeaway is that Luke looked big. He looked slow. He looked sloppy. He was winning the fight, I believe, but he got clipped at the end of the first round. I mean, does anybody know, like, why is Luke not at AKA anymore? Is there something more to this story? Why is he no longer training at that gym? Because it seems like he tried to reinvent himself at some point, and he certainly reinvented himself, but this is not a great version, 205, he was supposed to look powerful. He looked like he was completely gassed in 5 minutes, which is not something we're used to seeing from Rockhold. It was fairly uneventful until we got that big left hook off the break, and as soon as I saw that happen, I felt bad for Luke because, I mean, you listen to his interviews on the lead up. Is it really is this like a mental arrogance thing? Why won't he keep his hands up? This is 3 straight left hook brutal knockouts, right?
I mean, have you ever heard Luke Rockhold speak in an interview? He ain't exactly the brightest light on the Christmas tree.
Well, he's so confident that he's going to beat everybody, and then he's getting brutally knocked out and getting his jaw broken. It's like, why wouldn't you come in with a different mindset? One that's a little more, you don't even have to be humble, but just not so forthright with how you feel, just take your quiet confidence into the ring and be focused, because I don't even know where to go from here. That knockout was brutal.
I mean, look, Luke's face is a porcelain doll made in Sweden in the 1930s.
And he's making more money with Ralph Lauren anyway, so why doesn't he just go?
Well, this is the one thing I'll say. I don't think he should retire yet because he needs to answer for what he said to Lionheart.
He just broke his jaw.
He's got to answer for all what he said to Lionheart. Let Smith retire him, and he will. God knows he will.
It's sad because Luke Rockhold was a bad dude when he was younger. I mean, I think back to like the Costas Philippou fight. I think back to when he knocked out Bisping. Those when he was just shredded and just arguably one of the top fighters in the world. So really strange to kind of see how quickly things turn in MMA. Your prime in MMA is so short. I always say this, when I'm telling people, guys like Conor McGregor sit out 2-3 years, they come back, that prime is gone. He's not 27 anymore. To use an example, I heard they were talking about Conor the other day, he's 30. One of the things Conor had going for him is his youth, which, when you sit out for 3 years, it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone's prime is the same. Look at Anthony Smith.
That's very true. But when you reach that elite level at 27, 28 years old, I don't think it's conducive to, like, be taking breaks and reinventing yourself. You know what I mean? Especially when you're up there. He left AKA, I believe, right after the Bisping loss.
I believe that's correct.
And he's 1-2 since then, and both losses were brutal knockouts, and the one he won.
And Branch had him in trouble.
Yeah, big trouble. So, I don't know. And he's supposed to be with Henry Hooft, who is that Hooft?
I think so.
Who's a great striking coach, and he still, for whatever reason, isn't picking up the techniques to defend himself properly still. So I don't know. I was disappointed. I expected him to look better, but I did pick him to lose by knockout. I think when you've taken that kind of damage, it's just irreversible, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, we got to move on. Michael Chiesa defeats Diego Sanchez via unanimous decision, 30-26, 30-26, 30-26. What did you think of this? I thought Chiesa looked great and right at home at welterweight.
Yes, Chiesa looked good. I mean, Diego's a former 145 and 155er, so he was completely outsized.
He's not that bad at welterweight, though. He's really not.
No, he's not that bad, especially considering he doesn't have to drain himself and he has his normal, power. But Yeah, Chiesa's trending up. Diego's trending down, unfortunately. Just a bad matchup for Diego, who honestly I don't see beating a lot of guys at welterweight anymore.
Yeah.
And I just heard, I don't know if you heard this, but Diego Sanchez is in talks to fight BJ Penn at UFC 243.
Rest in peace, BJ Penn.
Yeah, Diego will take him, but I don't think that fight's necessary. Why wouldn't they give us Diego versus Gilbert Melendez and let those two retire on that fight?
I don't know.
They should make me the matchmaker. Nobody wants to see BJ and Diego. They all want to see Diego versus Melendez too, right?
Whoa. They should make both of us the matchmaker. Are you kidding me? Put me in there. I can do a lot better than Dana. Trust me, it ain't so difficult these days. All right, moving on. And we're going to jump through these because, guys, we've just got so much to cover. Arnold Allen defeats Gilbert Melendez via unanimous decision. I thought it was impressive, but, I was listening to Ariel Helwani, and he was just really singing Arnold Allen's praises. It was a good win, but he didn't get a stoppage. I think they're kind of making a huge deal out of this guy, and I don't know that he's proved himself completely yet.
That's fair. I'm high on Arnold Allen. He's super talented. I believe he trains at TriStar, right? So he's very well coached. He really kind of is a smooth striker, can do a lot of different things. Gil's super tough. He's from the scrap pack, You're not just going to knock out Gilbert Melendez.
True.
So even though he didn't get the stoppage, I do feel like it was a strong performance. It was similar to the Chiesa-Sanchez fight in that Allen is streaking up. Melendez is clearly, close to retirement, if not retiring on that fight. It was just kind of a crossroads match. I thought Allen did what he needed to do to keep moving on. Certainly a guy to watch.
Yeah. And, I'm just looking at the rankings now, and by the way, they're brand spanking new. They just updated them, literally, today. Arnold Allen was unranked. He is now number 13 in the featherweight division. I've got an opponent in mind. I want to hear your opinion. I think he should fight number 7, Yair Rodriguez. What do you say?
I just heard this week that Yair's going to fight Brian Ortega in Mexico.
Darn it, why are you trying to make me look bad?
But that's an amazing fight if that happens. Yair versus Ortega in Mexico City or whatever, that sounds amazing to me.
Yeah, okay. Well, never mind on that one. How about, I've got a backup. How about Arnold Allen versus Renato Moicano?
That's not bad. Or Ricardo Lamas. Either of those.
Lamas is ranked number 15, Allen 13, so that'd be a step back for Allen.
But it'd be pretty much one of the biggest names in even though Lamas is on his way out, he's been a perennial top 10 guy for the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. Okay, moving on. Marlon Vera defeats Hernandez. Chico Hernandez, submission, rear naked choke, 3 minutes and 25 seconds into the second round. What'd you think of that?
I love Chito Vera, one of my favorite fighters to watch.
Oh, yeah.
He keeps getting better.
I just said Chico Hernandez. That's embarrassing. Sorry, go ahead.
We'll edit it out for you, Phil. Ever since the Brad Pickett fight, where he retired Brad Pickett in England, I believe, right? With a high kick to the face. I've been paying attention to Chito Vera. He's improved each time. Super exciting. Good kickboxer. Great jiu-jitsu. So one of my favorite fighters, actually. I thought he looked great on short notice switch of opponent.
Totally agree. Moving on, Claudia Gadelha, women's strawweight, defeats Ronda Marcos via unanimous decision. I believe you chose Ronda. I chose Claudia.
Yeah. That fight there was literally nothing happening, right?
Do you like how you got more picks right, and I'm just bullying you on the one that I beat you on? That's how petty I am.
That's all right. But there's not much analysis needed.
No, there's not.
Claudia didn't gas. So
yeah.
I think that was good. She had enough power to keep Ronda real respectful, and that was the difference.
Yep. Okay, moving on. Bantamweight. Both of us chose Alejandro Perez to defeat Yadong Song. Boy, were we wrong.
Is it Yadong Song or Song Yadong?
It's listed as Yadong Song. That's what I mean. I think it's.
That was a counterpunch from hell, wasn't it? That was amazing.
I said it was the Chinese Korean zombie. I mean, it reminded me a lot of the Moicano KO. Am I crazy?
It was similar to that. I think Korean Zombies was more of a hook. This was more of like a straight right.
Okay, well, now you're being a smartass. But no, I'm just kidding. You're right.
They were both counter right hands. Sure.
Yeah. So, Yadong Song, bantamweight, suddenly a factor.
Very interesting. Yeah.
He's now ranked. Oh, you're right. And then on the rankings, he's listed as Song Yadong, and he's at number 13. Who's next for him? Who would you like to see him fight next at bantamweight?
Well, he's ranked 13th. Where's Peter Yan? Because I pick him every episode.
4.
Oh, he's too high. Way too high.
Jimmy Rivera, number 8.
That's a good one.
That's what I say.
Song Yadong versus Jimmy Rivera. That'd be a huge step up in competition, but I'd like to see it.
Yep, I agree. Moving on to the early prelims. Edmund Shabazian giving Ronda Rousey's gym some life. Let's go.
Yeah, the last hope for the Glendale Fight Club.
Glendale Fight Club defeats Jack Marshman via rear naked choke, 1 minute and 12 seconds into the first round. Look, jokes aside, I was very impressed with Shabazian.
Yeah, I have been. I think the last 2 or 3 times I've seen him, he's certainly stood out to me. Very athletic kid with lots of skills. Good looking prospect for sure.
And he's, by the way, he is still totally unranked. What do you think about him versus number 15, Anderson Silva?
No.
Why?
Does he really deserve to fight Anderson Silva?
Silva's ranked 15, dude.
I know, but we're not going off the rankings with Anderson Silva. Let's have a little respect.
Okay, fine. 14 David Branch. No?
I don't know if I like that one either.
All right. Oh, do you have someone?
We're talking about Edmund Shabazian, right?
Yeah.
You want to give him a top 15? You're going to put Edmund Shabazian versus Anderson Silva? Come on, man.
What's the worst case scenario? That Anderson gets a win finally? Oh, no.
Well, no. It's just Anderson needs to fight straight name guys from now on. He needs to fight Luke.
Does he really?
He needs to fight Luke Rockhold at 205 next.
Oh, okay. That might not go so good for Luke, but well, maybe.
Right, let's keep it moving.
Chance Ricontour defeats Ismail Nardia via unanimous decision. I didn't have
covering that one.
I was just gonna say I don't have much to say about that crappy fight.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the rest of these. I think we talked about
Julia Avila defeats Pani Kinzad via unanimous decision. That was a slightly fun fight. That was a slightly fun fight.
And I picked it right.
So did I. You want a cookie or? I'm just kidding. Okay, moving on to the UFC Sacramento Preview, baby. And we're going to do it the same way we did last time. We'll switch off each fight. The main event, let's start with that. Aspen Ladd versus the Iron Lady, Germaine de Randamie. And side note, I found this fascinating. de Randamie is the underdog. I was shocked by that.
Yeah, most people don't have a lot of respect for Germaine de Randamie. But yeah, that's surprising to me considering her experience, especially in striking outside of the UFC.
Yeah, so who you got? You go first. Who you got?
Oh, I see what you did there, so I can't have the Faber fight. Okay.
Oh, you want me to go first?
No, I'll go first. It's fine. Yeah. I'm taking Germaine de Randamie by split decision here. I think that her size, her footwork, and her counter striking will keep Aspen Ladd, who's much more inexperienced, at bay, and I think she'll outpoint her. All right.
Okay. So,
I do think that, before I let you go, I do think that sets up a very interesting fight between Germaine de Randamie and Amanda Nunes. I think that fight could be very interesting because of de Randamie's size and striking ability.
And obviously, they've already fought. Nunes has a win, so that'd be a rematch.
But that was a lifetime ago.
Okay, let me ask you this. Assuming JDR wins, do they do that fight at 135 or 145? Because remember, JDR was the first 145 champ.
I don't think they'll give her that opportunity at 145. If she earns it at 135, I think they'll give it to her. She didn't even want to take the 145 thing. I believe if you listen,
well, she doesn't want to do a lot of things, as we
I've
learned.
listened to countless interviews. The reason she took that fight simply was because they were offering a title. That's not her division. She wants to fight in 135. So
yeah, okay. So this is what I think. I think that Aspen Ladd is special. I admit that I'm a fan of hers, so people can scream biased, but I think she's special. I think she has a serious hunger inside of her, a serious drive that is going to take her through some rough moments against JDR, and I see her winning via unanimous decision against Germaine de Randamie, who's just not as hungry as her. Give me Aspen Ladd, unanimous decision.
How do you know how hungry she is?
What do you mean?
Did you interview her last week?
I mean, I've seen her fight.
I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time. I think Aspen Ladd's...
Wow. Hey, guys, Fight Geek hates Aspen Ladd. Aspen, I don't agree.
I like
Aspen, I love you. Don't listen to Fight Geek. I love you, Aspen. I believe in you.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, but did you not tell me the first time we talked that Uriah Faber got you into the sport of MMA?
That is correct.
Segue. Who do you got in the next fight?
Damn you. Damn you. Why did you have to do that?
Who do you got?
It's completely true. Uriah Faber got me into the sport during his WEC days. The California kid, he was my favorite fighter. Through thick and thin, and a lot of it was thin.
And you traded him in for DC, let's be honest.
Whatever, I'm proud of that. Now I know how it feels to be like New York Rick when he was talking about BJ Penn and how sad he was when BJ Penn came back. Like, now I know how it feels.
No, you don't know that because Uriah'd have to come back 6 times for you to understand that.
Well, he may. The truth is, I'm horrified by Uriah's return. Makes me cringe. I'm horrified completely. I really wish he wasn't doing this. And I see Faber losing a unanimous decision. I hate you for making me say that.
Well, you're probably going to hate me more because I believe in your first favorite fighter. I'm going to take Uriah Faber here against... Yeah, I'm going to take him, and I'm just going to be wild and say via second-round submission.
Wow, well, I look like a bad guy if
so
that
while
happens.
You love Aspen Ladd, I got Uriah's back for you, okay?
Wow. If Faber wins, I am such a jerk.
All right. So I'm taking Faber. I just feel like I was watching some of his interviews. He's obviously in great shape. Took some time off. You know, we got Daddy Cowboy. Now we get Daddy Uriah. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I want to see how it goes. And we've seen Ricky Simon in trouble with guys like Merab. He's a good grappler. I think there'll be some interesting exchanges here, but I certainly think that Uriah is still very gifted at scrambling and grappling.
This is random, but did you see the gif of Uriah Faber's? You know how he's got like a butt for a chin? Did you see the gif of his...
Yes, I've noticed.
Have you seen the gif of his chin wearing a little thong? It's amazing.
I haven't, but it sounds hilarious.
It's amazing. All right, moving on. Okay, Josh...
So, before we move on, so I take it you're not happy Uriah's made a comeback.
I'm not happy at all. I'm horrified.
And you think it's a bad matchup versus a young Ricky Simon?
Look, Uriah got me into the sport. I don't want to see him tarnishing his legacy like this.
He says he has up to 4 fights left on his contract.
Oh, God.
You better hope he does good.
Oh.
All right.
Josh Emmett versus Rasad Bektic. Whose turn is it?
It's your turn.
Okay.
It's my turn again. My turn.
Okay, it is your turn.
I am going with Josh Emmett. I'm taking Josh Emmett. via the second round TKO.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah. I think they're both. It's a great. That's a great fight, by the way. That is a really great matchup. Really fun. Hard to predict. But, just like I predicted that Josh Emmett would be losing against Michael Johnson and come out with that KO in the third, I see it going this.
Did you call that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I see it going the same way with Bektic. I think Emmett's going to be losing the fight. I think he's going to land a knockout punch in the third. Give me Josh Emmett by third round knockout, baby.
Interesting. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
I believe the next fight has been canceled, right? The Drakkar Klose fight?
Yeah, that's canceled.
That's unfortunate. Who was he fighting off the top?
Putting me on the spot, and you should.
Anyways, I was looking forward to Drakkar Klose's fight, so I had him winning, but let's keep it moving. What's after that?
Roberson versus Turman.
I'm going, is his name Carl Baby Robertson? What's his name?
I believe so. We can jump through a few of these. I mean, these.
Yeah, well, he's a pretty athletic guy, striker. Yeah. He looked good in his last fight, so I'm running with him this time.
I also got. Yep. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say super elaborate breakdown for the listeners.
Whatever. I mean, whatever. I got Roberson as well by unanimous decision. All right, now we've got Ferreira versus Vettori. Who you got?
This should be fun. Ferreira was just beat by Heinich.
Mm-hmm.
Who, I'm going to do a little MMA math here, who's somewhat similar to Marvin Vettori,
mm-hmm.
who put up a very solid fight versus Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, so split decision, right? Split decision.
Yeah, and he's a big, strong, tough kid. I'm taking Marvin Vettori here by unanimous decision.
I have Marvin Vettori by second round stoppage.
Nice.
Okay, now we've got Andre Touchy-Feely, probably the best nickname combined with last name of all time, versus Moraes. Who you got?
Shaman Moraes versus Feely, huh? I'm going to take Andre Feely. He's a little more seasoned. He's a good on his feet. Shaman Moraes is an athletic striker, but seems to get hit a lot and kind of gas a bit. I think that's how Feely will win, by outpointing him. And let's say unanimous decision, Andre Feely.
Darn it. I also have Touchy-Feely by unanimous decision. Okay, Juliana Pena versus the much-loved Nico Montano, who ducked out of her Valentina Shevchenko fight, I believe, twice. And then she got caught for PEDs and didn't even talk about it. What a lovable girl she is.
One of your favorites, huh?
One of my absolute favorites, Nico.
Fighting against Juliana Pena, coming back off like a 2-year absence, right?
Yeah.
What was her last fight? You have that pulled up?
Jeez, man, talk about putting me
No,
on
no, you don't have to. You don't have to.
I can.
We need a stats and research department on this show now.
We need an assistant that we can bully. What's that Joe Rogan assistant who's like, Jimmy, pull that up?
We need somebody to pull stuff up.
All right. So, yeah. Okay, so Juliana Pena, it looks like she lost January 28th, 2017, submission armbar to Valentina Shevchenko.
So that was basically for a number one contender match. She lost. I believe she had a baby, and now it's been over 2 years. So she was like, I think she was ranked 4th in the world at that time. So she's a very interesting, addition to that division again. Well, 2 years off, hurt her versus a Nico Montoya who's super tough. I don't know, but I'm rolling with Juliana Pena just because I think I've seen her perform at a higher level in the past. But that was over 2 years ago, so things could certainly have changed.
I mean, that's very nice of you to make it sound like it's going to be close. Let's be honest, Montano has the heart of a...
Let's move on.
Whatever's
right.
Okay, whatever.
Pena's
gonna whoop her ass. Pena's gonna whoop her sorry ass. And if I'm wrong, then everyone can give me a bunch of crap on Twitter, and I welcome it, and I'll retweet it. Seriously. Seriously, give me crap if Nico wins. She has no chance.
What else do we got going on here?
Darren Elkins versus Ryan Hall. Who you got?
Tough fight to call. Going with the damage. Darren Elkins. I think that Hall's just going to flop and try and grapple. Elkins is super tough and has enough grappling savvy to steer clear. I think he wins an ugly, uneventful decision. Unanimous decision, Darren Elkins.
Ready? I got Darren Elkins by second round TKO. I think that he is, I agree with you. I think that Hall's just going to, get on his back and keep going for these little submissions. And Elkins is too clever. He's going to start, hitting him with the hammer fist, and I think he's going to get that stoppage. So give me Darren Elkins, second round, stoppage. Now we've got Souza versus Van Buren. This can be real quick. I got Souza.
Souza's an up-and-coming star.
Yep.
She's a good, so, I think that's another person for her to fight and continue to build her resume on.
And who you got? Lopez versus Morales.
It's a tough fight, but I'm going Benito Lopez to bounce back after his first pro loss. I think he has, the top of my head, 4 inches in height and quite a bit on reach. He's a long fighter, so I expect him to win that fight.
Interesting. We disagree. I have got Morales by split decision.
Well, I'll say Lopez by third round TKO.
All right. And on that note, guys, we will be right back after a word from our sponsors. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.TotalAggressionClothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special Split Podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.TotalAggressionClothing.com with promo code 46210. Okay, guys, we are back with the Split Decision Podcast, and it is time for my favorite section by far, the Listener Questions!
Nice. Perfect delivery every time, Phil.
All
right,
you're
here
too
we
kind.
go. So many questions to get to. I got one queued up right here.
Go, baby,
Kenneth
go.
Roberts at Mr._Tiddlewinks. He says, what do you make of the Sean O'Malley situation? Will he get the same pass as John Jones now? I feel like the hype around him has died down. Do you think we will ever see him in the octagon again? I will let you go because I believe you touched on this last week. So what are your thoughts on the Sean O'Malley situation, Phil?
Yeah, first of all, what up, Kenneth? Big friend of the program. Love that guy. I think it's a good question. I did touch on this a little bit. I will say this. I've got a rule. The rule with PEDs is I give everyone one mess up, and then the second time off with their heads. And I cannot, in good consciousness, count this as a second mistake because as USADA said, this looks to be just remaining metabolites from the first mistake. Sean O'Malley's on shaky ground with me. Has he lost most of his hype? Absolutely. If he makes another mistake, if he shows up with metabolites a second time, he's done. But for right now, I have not written him off quite yet. But yeah, very shaky ground for O'Malley.
Do you think we see him again in the UFC?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. You got one queued up, or you want me to keep going?
I got one queued up. Okay. This is from our good friend Jim Asoon. This is at Jim_ASSOUN. Does Masvidal get a title shot next, or does he have one more fight before that? Go.
We kind of touched on this. Mm-hmm. I do kind of feel like he needs, or he should have one fight before that, whether it be versus Woodley or the winner of, he's not going to fight Covington. So if Robbie won, That could set up an interesting fight. But isn't RDA coming off a good win? Can't remember off the top of my head.
He beat
Kevin Lee. So, I mean, RDA's in that range, too, to fight one of those guys.
Well, RDA is fighting Leon Edwards in a few weeks.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so now I overlooked one. We're even. Yes, I do believe he needs another fight. Is that the way it'll go? Who knows?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to come down to, I mean, we touched on this. I think that if Robbie beats Covington, Robbie will get that title shot off of a one-win streak.
I feel like if Robbie beats Covington, Masvidal's that fight.
Masvidal gets the title shot, you mean?
No, Masvidal gets Robbie.
But who fights Kamaru? He needs a fight.
We don't know for sure. Just because you heard this, that, and the other thing, do we know that he's going to be on that card for sure?
244, we don't know for sure, but let me go on record saying I believe he's going to be on 244, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I got one from MMA Stu.
Oh gosh.
MMA_Stu.
This should be great.
Chocolate, peanut, or crispy M&Ms?
All right, the honest to God truth is peanut by far.
Yeah, it's no contest, peanut.
I mean, come on, Stu. Stu, step up your game. Come on, man. Okay. This is from, I love this person. This is from Derek Lewis's Hot Balls, a.k.a. Pixie. What's up, Pixie? Love you, Pixie. Tiago is getting praised for being a beast and fighting through serious injuries. It could potentially be career-ending / changing. I have mixed feelings. He is tough, but was it worth it? Is the warrior mentality the community pushes dangerous to fighters? Why don't you take this?
So much going on there. Quit saying Tiago. It makes you sound super white.
How do you pronounce it?
It's more of a TH, I believe, like Tiago, right?
What?
Tiago.
You just said the same thing as me. You're trying to... Wow, okay. Bro. If you're going to criticize my pronunciation, you better come correct.
Okay.
Well, you said Tiago. It's more like Tiago. What?
I think... Should his corner have thrown in the towel, essentially? Is that what she's saying?
No, I think she's saying, is it... Well...
I would say right here that his corner obviously didn't know that, his ligaments were destroyed. We've seen things like nerves go out and people, their legs go limp and fight through all kinds of stuff. So they didn't have all of the medical information necessary to know the extent of the damage. That's the first point. The second point is being in there with John Jones in a main event in Las Vegas for the title fight. That was the biggest fight of Santos's career by 100 miles.
Yeah.
That was the biggest spot of his fight career. He may never reach that spotlight again. So I'm not sure that it's the culture of fighting as much as it's the man's will to fight, to be in there, to give it his all, to not relinquish that moment, those 25 minutes, because he may never get those again. So I don't know. I mean, I think fighters are fighters because they're wired much differently than the rest of us, So I think in retrospect, it's always easy to be like, his corner should have stopped it and saved him. I certainly don't think it's career ending.
No, he'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be back. It's going to be a good 18 to 24 months before he's himself again. At that point, will he have elite years left? We don't know. All the more reason why a guy like that would be willing to give his all in that title fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think that Santos did the right thing to continue fighting. I definitely don't think his team should have thrown in the towel. And, as I said earlier, I genuinely think Santos won that fight 3-2. Sorry, but I do. So I think Santos was 100% right.
Makes you think if he wasn't injured, what that fight would look like. Because even being injured, Jones was respecting him immensely.
It was the closest fight of Jones's career. I mean, that's not
100%.
That's not even up for debate.
Which also made me go back and think about that potential John Jones versus Anthony Rumble Johnson fight, how that would have looked. Because if Jones respected Santos that way, think of how he would have respected Rumble in his prime.
Yeah, and this is a small aside, but let me give John Jones one quick, legitimate piece of credit, and this is genuine. John Jones has a heck of a chin on him because he got hit and he took it. He's got a chin. I got to say
Yes.
that. Jones has a
Yeah,
chin.
John has attributes for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on, moving on. Okay. This is from Unsolicited Fight Picks. That's at Combative Views. He said, is John Jones looking less dominant, not so much because of USADA, but because he's facing higher quality athletes and caliber of competition is catching up? What do you say?
No, I believe he actually faced better level of competition when he was younger. I mean,
Then why is he looking worse? Which he
Huh?
is. Then why is he looking worse?
well, I mean, he's aging. There's obviously a lot of suspicions around him.
Ever since he's come back, he's looked worse, by the way. Let's just all admit it.
But he has not lost.
Right, that's
So
not the
let's
same
act like
thing.
he looked bad.
Don't dance around the question.
He still walked out of that fight without a scratch on his face on Saturday night. The guy can go train on Monday morning with no medical suspensions. When he fought Anthony Smith, he walked out of there the same way, and at least 90% with no marks on his face. So yes, he doesn't look as dominant as he used to, and what's happening to him is what I notice happened to a lot of great wrestlers and grapplers. As they age, they start developing their striking. They rely less on their initial strength, which was his wrestling. And now you're seeing John Jones as a point fighter who doesn't want to institute his wrestling, which is his greatest strength. If Jones, I still have no clue why Jones was either unable or unwilling to close the distance and take Santos down, because I think all scenarios pointed to him being able to be in much more comfortable scenarios there than, sitting and striking with Santos. So I just think it's Jones thinking he's evolving as a striker, wanting to prove he's a striker and implementing his actual best attribute less and less as he ages. We see this with guys like Dan Henderson. We saw this with guys like Rampage Jackson. We see this with basically all the wrestlers who were young champions start learning how to strike and kickbox, and then the older they get, the further and further away from. Even Tyron Woodley, in a way, you can see was a great wrestler, and then he just got out-wrestled in his latest fight. Is that because he's a bad wrestler now? No, it's because he faced a younger wrestler, and he's been instituting striking game plans and such. It's not a great analogy, but you get what I'm saying.
No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, very fair.
And I firmly believe that John Jones fantasizes about a knockout because he's not a knockout puncher. And I believe that leads him to want to strike more because he's choked guys out. He's grounded pounded guys. He's elbowed them. He's never one-shot knocked out anybody.
Yeah, I agree. And Jones said after it that the reason that he didn't implement his wrestling is because, it was a pride thing and he wanted to show he could stand up on the feet. And in Jones's credit, if there's one thing he's proven he's the greatest at it, he's the greatest liar. And that was BS.
Because he's been saying that forever. When he beat Chael Sonnen with grappling and wrestling, he said, I wanted to beat Chael at what he was best at. John has always had a weird thing about beating guys at what they're good at.
He almost lost the fight. Is he that stupid?
He might be that prideful, I guess. I don't know. But I certainly don't think
he wanted to take Santos down. He was scared.
No. If you're scared to strike with a guy, you usually will shoot on him. So he didn't shoot on him. So he was comfortable yet cautious. And just like the famous Nate Diaz saying, "Oh, we're wrestlers now." Because what happened to Conor when he was getting tagged up on the feet? Oh, he went for the shot. What happens when guys get tagged up? They shoot. So John was not feeling so threatened on the feet that he had to institute his wrestling. So John, in that essence, I don't believe was lying. I believe he was comfortable to sit there and kind of outwork Santos and take his chances because he's that confident.
It was a very, very close fight. So he was playing with fire.
I don't believe that's to his best benefit to look that lackluster doing something he's not elite at when he has elite tools that he's not accessing? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Okay. Do you have a question?
But again, that might be a function. Sorry, I'm just long-winded. That might be a function of the level of competition. Because, again, Santos did great, but Santos is a 185er who's had mixed results. I guess I believe this put it into perspective for me. Santos was submitted by Eric Spicely.
Mm-hmm.
And John Jones didn't want to take him down.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
True. Do you have a question lined up, or should I go?
Go ahead. Okay.
This is from GigZG18. That's at GIGGSYG18. How do you think Tony Ferguson does if he moves up to 170? And this is based off of a quick interview he did where he was saying he was getting bored at 155. After he fights for the title, he's thinking about moving up to 170. What do you say?
I mean, if you use RDA as the barometer, he beat the brakes off RDA, who's a perennial top 5 or 6 guy. So easily I could see Tony being a top 3 to 5 guy at 170. I think at the very top, he may struggle with the size and power, but skill-wise, I don't think there's one guy at 170 who's more skilled, and gas tank-wise, there sure ain't a guy who can hang with Tony Ferguson. I do think he'd be overmatched with some of the power of the other guys, but I certainly think he'd be a top 3/title contender, for sure.
Absolutely. I have to agree with you. The truth is, I think Tony Ferguson would do just fine at welterweight. He is a demon from hell.
Right, but how disrespectful is it that the organization has done him so dirty that he's like, I'll just have to switch divisions now? I mean, the guy's on a 12-fight winning streak in the greatest division in the history of mixed martial arts, and he can't get a title shot? So he's switching divisions?
Well,
if you thought this was a sport, that is your proof that it's not.
Well, listen, I'm glad you brought that up because I called for this on Twitter today, and I'm dead serious, Fight Geek, and I hope everyone's listening. If Tony does not get the winner of Khabib Poirier immediately, I would respectfully ask that everyone do not pay for the next lightweight title shot. The only way the UFC will listen is if they don't get their money. I would highly, highly recommend that you do not pay money for the event. You can stream it illegally if you want. Don't pay for it if Ferguson isn't in the next title fight.
So dramatic. You know we're all going to watch it regardless. But
I mean, yes, stream it, pirate it, but do not pay.
Phil, we're on video. Come on, let's move on.
Okay,
all right,
sorry, pay for it.
From Quinn at Orthodox 1993. He says, what do y'all think of Adesanya's antics? Seems like he's completely overlooking Whitaker, talking mad-ish to him, calling him a meth head, and putting too much stock into fighting Jones. Homie needs to slow his roll and be a bit more humble in his opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, and I'll get to that in a second. Let me ask you this question. Did you see the face-off that Whitaker and Adesanya just had?
Yes, Adesanya looked big compared to
that's Whitaker. Your takeaway. See, that was
my takeaway. He looked bigger than I thought.
My takeaway was that Whitaker looked pissed in a very real way.
No, Whitaker looks focused like Whitaker does. Whitaker doesn't get pissed. He's a happy soul, man.
He doesn't get pissed until you know what? I think Adesanya did it. Listen,
I think Adesanya is saying just stupid things that don't even make sense. I mean, he's just I don't understand. I think the way he's talking trash to Robert Whitaker literally doesn't make sense. I can't even follow it.
I think that Whitaker is going to beat the living shit out of Israel Adesanya. And the truth is, I like Israel. Wait, hang on. I like Israel, but his mouth has gotten ahead of his performances, and I look forward to watching that beatdown because you don't get a guy who's 2-0 against Yoel Romero mad, and you just did.
Well, he just said on Ariel yesterday that he's going to win his next 4 fights and fight John Jones in Raider Stadium in Vegas next year.
That's adorable. He's got to focus on the Reaper. That's adorable.
That's true. So he's basically saying he's going to go through Robert Whitaker, Yoel Romero, and
probably a Whitaker rematch if he wins.
So Whitaker twice, Romero And then John Jones. What are the odds he gets through that?
I wish you all the best, Israel. Rest in peace, homie.
Do you think he beats John Jones?
Is that a real question?
Well, by the time he fights Jones, Jones might be looking even older.
He's not getting to Jones because he isn't beating Whitaker once.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, this is with Fighting. This is from Fighting With Myself podcast. Love this guy. Who do you think will be the first to lose their title? Amanda Nunes or Valentina Shevchenko? I love that question. Go.
Lose their title or give it up first? I would say Shevchenko's going to be around longer than Nunes at this point. I think Nunes probably only has 3 fights in her career left max because she's pretty much cleared any relevant fights for her career other than a few rematches and maybe a new contender or 2.
Okay, fine.
So
Who will lose first? Who will lose first?
I don't think Amanda will lose, so I think I guess Shevchenko. But I think they could both honestly retire with the belts. Both of them could walk away with those belts right now.
I think that. Do you think they're going to meet a third time? Because I think they will.
Yes, but it would never be at Shevchenko's weight, so it would have to be
Correct.
at Nunes' weight,
Correct.
which I would favor Nunes, so Val would not lose her belt in that instance.
Right. That's why I changed it to who's going to lose first.
So I would say Shevchenko if I had to pick someone, but I could see both of them retiring and vacating the belt.
Okay, very fair. You know, and I'm normally not a fan of a third fight when someone's 2-0 against an opponent, but I think if there's ever a situation that warrants it, it is definitely Shevchenko versus Nunes. Make a third fight at bantamweight. I think Shevchenko's
100%.
Oh yeah,
and those fights were close.
They were very close. I think Shevchenko's going to defend the belt a few more times and get bored.
How much more impressive is it now to see how Shevchenko did versus her? It wasn't her weight class. And look what Nunes has done to everybody else. And then she was kind of tit for tat with Shevchenko in that weight class. I mean, Shevchenko's so gifted. I
want them to fight a third time at bantamweight. Bring it on, baby. Sounds fun.
I don't want to see either of them lose, to be honest.
Okay, fair. So this is a good question. This is from Pat Tobin. That's at Pat_Tobin. I know Phil the MMA dude disagreed with the judging on the main event at 239. Would you make any changes to the way MMA fights are scored? Different system, more judges, showing scores after each round. What do you say?
Well, without getting too extreme, I have kind of liked some of the ideas of the live scoring, similar to, when you go to a baseball game, when you go to a football game, when you go to a basketball game, the score in the stadium is visible to the fans. So I would think that instituting like a digital score round by round could be interesting. It sounds like an impossible thing to implement, but does sound interesting to me. Other than that, I think specialized MMA judges who are not from the boxing commissions, who have come up watching MMA, who have MMA training, would be very beneficial. That and live scoring, I think, would be much better.
Okay, all right. So I think that I'm not sure that I'm for live scoring for a whole bunch of reasons. It could be a major distraction to fighters. I mean, there's a whole bunch of little reasons I don't like that. I agree with you about the judging. Let's have it be more MMA based, ex-fighters, coaches. Where that runs into trouble, obviously, is do they have motivations to have certain fighters winning over others?
No, that's why you don't have like people that are affiliated with gyms or fighters be judges, obviously. It's a conflict of interest. So you would have to come up with like a commission of MMA exclusive judges or something.
Right, and this is the last thing I'll say on it. They said, would you have any changes to the rules of scoring? And the answer is yes. I think right now that octagon control is too important. Take someone like John Jones, right? He has an 88-inch reach. No one has a longer reach in all of the UFC, including heavyweights. I believe he's tied with Stefan Struve, a heavyweight. He's going to control the octagon because of his length. So,
but here's where I disagree with you.
Yeah?
You've been in fights before. Have you ever been in fights with guys who are bigger than you?
I've been in a lot of fights, and I've been in a lot of fights that I've won where I'm backing up. So what do you say to that?
How many times have you been backed into a corner and won? I don't agree. I think that if someone is marching you, impeding on your space, backing you into a corner, whether or not you're able to respond to that is not the point.
I love counterpunching. I love waiting for the other guy to go first. Are you kidding me? That's the best.
I'd say 8 times out of 10.
You wait for them to go, and then you go. You wait for them to go, and then you go. No?
Controlling space is pretty important to me.
See, I really strongly disagree, man. I really disagree there.
Well, in a real fight on the street.
In a real fight, does control matter? No.
Sure it does. Because if you get within that space, he can choke you out and leave you for dead on the side of the road.
Or he can walk forward like a dumbass, throwing little jabs, and then you can knock him the fuck out.
But is that what Jones was doing?
Well, he's certainly not knocking him out.
He split his forehead with an elbow or something, right?
Yeah. All right, we disagree on this one. That's fair.
Yeah, cool.
Do you have another one?
Yeah, I got one from Mikey G at Gunner Mike 3. GSP versus Khabib talks are heating up again. Are you guys for this or against? Can I go?
Yeah, go.
Against in every single way. See, 5 minutes ago when we were talking about Tony Ferguson. Let GSP retire, go away, make movies. Like, nobody wants to see GSP fight anymore, right?
I completely agree. And
I don't even want to talk
here.
about Floyd or GSP or any of these fantasy fights. I want Khabib to fight Dustin. I want him to fight Tony. I want him to fight Justin Gaethje. I want to see these fights that matter, not somebody who's fought one fight in 5.5 years versus a half-blind Michael Bisping who's never fought at 155. Why is that fight?
Shots fired at Michael Bisping. Shots fired.
Sorry, no, I love Michael Bisping, but he shouldn't have taken that fight either.
No, I totally agree with you. No one wants that.
My point is like we have so many great fights, and I don't get really fired up that often other than when people are asking for GSP and Floyd and this and that. We have the fights. We have all the fighters. Like, just make the fights. Tony Ferguson, we've made it versus Khabib 3 times. I don't care. Make it 10 times. I have to see it.
Yep. And, wow, we really may have too many questions for the first time ever.
No, keep going.
At MMA Fanatic 6, I'm sure y'all are going to cover it, but where does Ben Askren go from here? My quick answer, Darren Till, baby, make the fight now.
No-brainer. They already had some heat between them. That's the fight they both wanted. They both lost. The stars aligned. They should absolutely make that fight.
Next question. This is Nathan at N_Web1212. Who will John fight next? You go.
Corey Anderson.
Okay, I think if John has any guts, if he's a real man, he's going to fight the winner of DC versus Stipe at heavyweight like he said he would.
By the way, Francis's fight. That's Francis's fight.
Francis has to wait. Jones is viewed as the GOAT, and it's a joke. He's got to go and fight for the big boy belt.
Phil, do you not listen? Jones has said 100 times he wants to stay at 205.
Justin, do you not listen? John said after the fight that he was going to fight the winner of Stipe DC.
He smirks and jokes about it so that he can put guys like you on tangents. Trust me. He's
a coward. Oh, he really made me look bad being a coward. Ooh.
No, he's not. Only you believe he's a coward for that.
He has the longest reach in the UFC. Why shouldn't he fight at heavyweight? Tell me.
Because he can just keep beating 205ers and add to his legacy. And
he's
all
such
of us
a
will
little
still
bitch.
Watch it. Okay, we're getting into dark territory.
Sorry. He's really brave. He's really brave. Oh, so brave.
All right. At Dur Dusel, at Dur_Dusel. I hope I said that right. How will Chris Weidman do at 205?
He's going to do about as well as Luke. worse, if anything?
They're both chinny, huh?
They're chinny, and they're just not. It's not gonna work, Chris. It ain't gonna work.
Chris Weidman is slow and lumbering at 185. I can't imagine him.
It's so harsh, but it's so true.
I mean, he was slow versus Jacare, who's slow.
Weidman's a dead man at 205. He's a dead man.
I mean, if he institutes his wrestling, Chris Weidman, another guy who became a champion using his wrestling and then has not really been able to use his wrestling since he started aging.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
So I see Chris obviously being like, I don't see him quite going out like Luke did, but, I don't see him challenging for a belt.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay, real quick. This is Ben Davis at UFC Davis. Who does Justin Gaethje fight next, and where does Cerrone fit into the top 5 lightweight picture moving into the rest of this year and into 2020? Ben, I think you answered your own question. It's Gaethje versus Cowboy, baby. Make the fight.
It's Gaethje versus Al Iaquinta. 100% is the fight to me.
What?
Gaethje versus Al. Cerrone versus
who's
the winner? The Cerrone versus the winner of Paul Felder and Barboza.
Ooh, that's mean to Cowboy.
Why, Paul Felder's too much for Cowboy? That'd be an interesting match.
No,
But obviously you would take Barboza over Felder now, even though he's taken a ton of damage in the last...
No. Did I say that? Why are you putting words in my mouth, homie? I take Felder in the rematch, but I think that Cowboy... Look, Cowboy lost to Tony Ferguson, okay? We don't need to bury his body. I mean, it's Tony Ferguson.
That's true.
I think it should be Cowboy versus Gaethje. I would love that fight.
That's a great fight, for sure. I don't think that... Yeah, that'd be an amazing fight, actually.
Okay, all right, wait. We still have more. Okay, from Sam MMA Fan Bronx, at Sam MMA Fan Bronx. This is Sam. And shout out to Sam. Sam, you disagree with me so much, but you're a loyal listener. You're a loyal follower. And the truth is, I have a ton of respect for people like that. Sam, respect to you, sir. He said, could Valentina Shevchenko take her thunder with a victory in a trilogy, considering if it happens against Amanda, who's defended her belt at 145? Okay, so he's asking, how would Valentina Shevchenko do against Amanda? We've kind of
answered that. I think she would do very similar to the way she did at first. I think they've both gotten better, but I still would favor Amanda in that fight.
I agree. Thank you for the question, Sam. And then last one for me. This is Jay Brookley at Cradle in Flames. The state of judging. Do you think changes should be made for judging criteria? Why don't we have MMA-specific judges? What do you think? We sort of answered this. My last answer on this will be, I think that there is too much importance made on octagon control, as I've said, both with sparring, personally, both in boxing and Muay Thai, and in a few street fights. I haven't had that many, but I have had a few. There's way too much importance on control, on walking someone down. If you're landing the big punches, you win. Huh?
Let me interrupt. Do you like the old Pride rules where they judge the full 15 minutes rather than by round?
I mean, I like the by round. I just think octagon control's made too important. That's all.
Well, I just think it really depends on the judges and what they know about the sport.
Like, Justin, if you're walking someone... Okay, no, if someone's walking you down and also, then you're landing the big punches, do you really think they won? No.
Well, it's very circumstantial. And also, I don't know if you're familiar, but these judges don't always have the best view of the fights. We're getting to watch it I watch mine on a 55-inch, about 4 feet from my face. So,
wow, easy, Richie Rich. Easy, Richie Rich. What is this, some Macaulay Culkin movie from the 90s?
Quite a bit of it, where these guys are looking through chain link with all this commotion, and they've got a post in their face and a cameraman in their face, and they're trying to judge action and going behind the pole and in the chains. It's hard to judge. I think that the vantage point of the judge could be part of the problem as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, by the way, because during Jones-Santos, I couldn't help but notice how much Joe Rogan was going out of his way to scream at the top of his lungs about how injured Santos was. Joe has become, for the first time ever, a distraction and an unnecessary part of the events. I can't wait for him to leave. Can't wait for him to. And I never thought I'd say that, and it shocks me to say it. Joe, get out of here, Joe. Get out of here.
All right, let's go. Okay, I got one queued up from Martin Durant, at Martin Durant 1. Should John Jones move up to heavyweight now? Is there anyone left at light heavyweight to challenge him? We kind of covered this, but...
there's no one left. Move up to heavyweight, be a big boy.
You heard it there. I'm scrolling to see if we got them all.
I feel like we might have got them.
Oh, you know what? We have some Instagram questions. Let's not forget about our Instagram.
Okay, we're running real late, by the way. Okay, keep going.
Instagram real quick. At DJ Double Drop asks, was the Jorge Masvidal the greatest knockout in UFC history? Yes or no?
Yes, end of story.
Ooh.
Name a better one.
Oh, I can name equal ones.
Go.
I mean, the Yair one with 459.
That was by accident, let's be honest.
I think, yes, we can go ahead and say. I mean,
that was pure accident. Pure accident.
Well, the Anderson Silva front kick to Vitor Belfort. That might barely edge that.
I don't know.
No?
Yeah, okay. Maybe.
But yeah, it's up there for sure. Yeah, very, 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 very high up there on the list of greatest knockouts of all time, no doubt. So, does that do it for today's episode, dude?
I believe that does it. Guys, right before I hand it to Fight Geek, we would never, ever ask for iTunes 5-star reviews. But if you happen to have an iPhone, and if you happen to have 5 seconds, do us a favor, go on to the iTunes podcast app and give the Split Decision podcast 5 stars. It really helps us out, and I'm handing it over to Fight Geek. Take us away.
All right, guys, as usual, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at the Fight Geek MMA. He's at Bill the MMA Dude. We are at Split_podcast. That's 4 words.